Hey there, I'm Michael. I like to build things and make things and learn things, and I've decided that I'm going to build some projects and do some things and learn from my mistakes, and I thought I'd record the videos, record the progress, and hopefully someone can learn from them or even just get some entertainment, and that's fine. For the current project that I'm going to be working on, I have decided to tackle building a guitar. It isn't my first time building a guitar. I have built one before, and it is this one over here. I'll show it to you in a second. But for this one I've decided to take a slightly different approach, slow down and take my time, be very deliberate about it, and so I thought it would be a good opportunity to record what I do, if for nothing other than perpetuity, and to have the recordings to maybe one day show my kids about the time that their dad built a guitar, and maybe, as I said previously, if someone can learn something or even just have a little fun watching me stuff it up, then that's great. So I thought I would start by showing you the guitar that I previously built, and it is this one over here. It is an Explorer style guitar, based off of the Gibson Explorer shape, and I built it about 4 years ago now. I really enjoyed the process of building it, learning about working with the wood, learning about managing the neck and body, making sure that things are lined up, learning about how to sand and finish the wood, and it has become my daily instrument. I play it as my most frequent guitar that I play, and I have done one or two minor upgrades to it over the years, but for the most part it plays well. It's a little bit heavy and a bit chunky. That's kind of what you expect from an Explorer though, but it sounds really good and it plays really well, and so I thought it would be a good place to start by showing you how I built it and what I've done to it, and we can see from there. So as you can see, I'll tilt it up a little bit towards you all. As you can see, it's an Explorer style. From what I recall when I built it, it's made from basswood. It has a glue-in neck. That's the only thing I would have liked different, is to have a bolt-on neck, but it is a glue-in neck. It is made from basswood laminate, so you can see the lines here and here where the pieces were jointed. And I bought this as a kit. I bought it from a company out of Australia called Pitbull Guitars, a really nice bunch of guys, and both this kit and the kit that I'll be working on now both come from Pitbull Guitars. Pretty much everything on this kit, on this guitar, is standard except for the pickups. So the bridge and tailpiece, the pots and knobs, the switch, and the tuners on this side are all stock standard. The pickups, however, I put in a set of Seymour Duncan Invaders, which have been really rock solid. I love the sound of them. But for the new guitar I'll be doing something slightly different. The finish on this guitar was just a mahogany coloured stain, and then finished it off with some gun oil, which looks really good. There's a little bit of fading up at the top here, but all in all it's a fantastic guitar with some really nice colouring and some nice figuring in the wood, and so I was really glad to be able to stain it and it come out so great. Now on the back it has a single hole, single port for all of the electronics, and other than that it's pretty solid. So now on to the guitar that I'm going to be building for this project, and if you pay really close attention you'll notice that it's also an Explorer shape. It just happens to be my favorite shape for a guitar, and just something that I've always wanted, hence why I chose to build the first one. And so I have another body, also a kit that I bought a while back from the guys at Pitbull Guitars out of Australia, and I'll walk you through this body in a few seconds. But to start off, I think maybe it was worthwhile sharing why build rather than buy, and the simple reason, also if you were paying close attention, you may notice that I'm left-handed, and so the challenge with being left-handed and a guitarist is that it is often really difficult to get hold of left-handed guitars. When you do get hold of them, they're generally the bottom of the range models. They don't come with some of the nicer woods or some of the nicer finishes. You definitely struggle to get any kind of customizations. The way that I understand it from the industry is that switching over the machinery between left-handed and right-handed means you have to switch your dies out, dies that cut and route out the holes in the body for things like your pickups and your positioning for your bridges and tailpieces. And so generally what these companies do is they will set up their machines, they will create a set of dies, they will start their run with either left or right-handed and run an entire run of manufacturing with that set until they've made enough for whatever they believe the market needs, and then switch over and do the remainder. Typically that means that they would start on left-handed, do a small run of left-handeds because there are so few of us, and then have to stop their manufacturing process, stop their machines and switch over to the right-handed dies and do the rest of the year running on the right-handed die. That means that there are very few left-handed guitars available, and any opportunity to order something custom is just not possible, because it would mean that they would have to stop their machines and put in the left-handed dies. And so typically what that's meant for me in the past is whenever looking for guitars, you walk into any guitar store, either where I came from in South Africa or where I am now in the Netherlands, and your range is quite limited. You may get one or two Fenders, usually more in the Squire ranges. You may get one or two Gibsons, but probably mostly Epiphones, and then a couple of the other Chinese or Korean or Japanese brands, but nothing great, and definitely nothing with any kind of options, no variation in terms of paintwork or pickup setup. And so the only option for me, at least when I built this guitar in South Africa, was to custom build it. At that point in time there was no way for me to get a left-handed Explorer in South Africa, and if I wanted one I was going to have to build it, and so I did. And it worked out really well, and I really enjoyed it. This time around I want to again build something really custom, something that really suits what I want out of a guitar. And so I decided, because I cannot order it myself, I can from here in Europe get basic Gibson Explorers, original Gibsons, which is great, but nothing in the paint style or the hardware choices that I want. And so I decided to bite the bullet and build again. I'm going to show you the kit itself and the other things that I have built or bought for this build. So first off, the body. The body of this build is again laminate basswood, so you can see some of the lines through here. It doesn't look too bad, but definitely nothing special. And this body does not have some of the nice figuring that the previous body had. and so definitely better for a painted finish rather than a stained finish. So basswood, again 2 humbuckers, volume and tone, and a switch. What you will notice, if I just bring the body a little bit closer to the camera, is in the tailpiece and bridge, you'll notice that slight dark coloration, and essentially what that is that some of the parts, which I'll show you shortly, that I wanted to use on this build, the tailpiece and the bridge specifically, the posts were smaller than the pre-drilled holes on this body, and so this was the only piece of work I did before starting the build, was send this off to a luthier that I have used previously and asked him to plug these holes and re-drill them to the correct size. And the reason why I had a luthier do that is simply because I don't have a drill press and didn't want to risk drilling holes at the wrong angles or any way skew, and so I thought I would rather hand them off to a professional. So that's the only work that I've had done before I started. Next up on the neck, again stock standard neck. It is a mahogany, I believe, fretboard, but nothing special. Also basswood, needs to be sanded. It has been finished in, at least for where it needs to be glued into the body, but the fretboard definitely needs some attention, and the headstock itself is all fine, just needs some sanding before we go into paintwork. Cool, so next up I wanted to take you through the hardware that I have picked for this build and sourced. The kit from Pitbull Guitars, in fact the kit from most DIY guitar companies, will come with basic hardware, so it will come with pickups and pots and everything, and very often they come with pretty good detailed guides about how to set it up and build it and how to wire everything together. And this guitar that I built, the previous one, most of the hardware is stock standard from the kit, except for the pickups as I mentioned, and it's fine. As a basic guitar or as a first build, it's probably fine. However, there are some components on there that I definitely would replace if I had the time or the energy to pull this guitar apart and do that amount of rework on it. But it plays fine, it does a good job. I'm going to leave it alone and keep using it as it is. But for this guitar that I'm building now, I really wanted something that was going to be special and that I could be really proud of. And so I decided that every piece of hardware I put onto this guitar, even down to the paintwork, I wanted it to be exactly the way that I envisioned it. So I'll take you through those parts now. First up, I have bought a set of gold headstock tuners. These, along with every other part that I have bought for this build, I bought from Thomann, which is an online dealer here in, well, actually based out of Germany, but they ship all over Europe. And these headstock tuners are their in-house brand. They're called Harley Benson, and they apparently come with really good reviews, and they're pretty good for what you pay. And so I was happy to get a set of them, in the left style, but also in gold. The fact that I wanted everything in gold makes things a little bit tricky. Next up, a set of gold tuning knobs, volume and tone knobs. These are pretty chunky and pretty weighty and have some locking screws in them. They're a really good addition. They feel nice and solid, so they're probably going to be lasting quite a while. Next up, I have an EMG pickup switch. This is an original EMG pickup switch with the no soldering plug and play adapters on the bottom. The only other thing that I did with this switch is that the EMG switches come with silver nuts and a black plastic tip, and as you can see, this one is gold. And I was fortunate enough that my luthier who plugged the holes on the body happened to have a gold nut and a gold tip that he gave to me for this build. Otherwise I would have been stuck with black plastic, which I wasn't too happy with and struggled to find gold for. Next up, something really minor but should make a big difference to the finished product, is the jack cover plate, also in gold, and this part comes with gold screws as well, so it really looks good once you put it all together. Then the piece that ended up needing the work on the body is the bridge and tail piece. These are Tone Pro's bridge and tail piece. They come pretty highly recommended, good solid pieces, good performance, not too worried about it. It just meant that I needed to have some work done on the body, which I wasn't comfortable doing myself, but hopefully worth it in the end. And second to last, I decided to do something slightly different, and that is I have bought a set of Shaler locking nuts for the strap, and that should be just something nice, a nice addition. Never had locking nuts on a guitar before, and I thought it would be quite nice, seeing as they weren't too expensive and I could get them in gold as well. Last up in terms of hardware is the pickups. Save the best for last, and what I'm putting into this guitar is James Hetfield signature humbuckers. They're from EMG. They are active pickups. I'll take them out and show them to you. Also in line with the theme, they are solid gold, and they are absolutely beautiful. These come with, as part of the kit, the main board, the jack, and 2 volume and 2 tone pots, all with the no soldering plug and play connections, and all of the wiring as well. That's going to make a big difference to the end build of the guitar. The wires are all really slim, low profile. All of this hardware comes with the EMG plug and play, no soldering wiring, including all the wires. They're all low profile wires, and it should make the cavity with all the electronics really neat and slim, easy maintenance, no worrying about dry joints on the soldering, so it should make for a super simple setup on the guitar. And that's it for the hardware. Last up, and definitely the last thing I'll be doing on this guitar, is the paint job. One thing that I wanted to do, but not only because of the style that I want, but also because of the body of the guitar, was I didn't want to go with a stain, because the body doesn't have really nice figuring on the wood. I wanted to do a matte black finish. I thought the matte black with the gold hardware is going to look really, really beautiful. The challenge is that spray paint is tough. Painting guitars is not easy. As kids, many of my friends in my teenage years had guitars and sanded them down and spray painted them with paint bought from the hardware store, and it always looks terrible. What I have read and understood from the research I've done online is that the ultimate finish is based on the prep work you do. So first up is a grain filler. All of the finishing products that I've bought are from a single company called Nitorlack, but they are a guitar paint specialist. They also had good recommendations on the internet for their nitrocellulose paints and products for finishing guitars. So first up is the grain filler. What that is going to do is fill any minor imperfections in the body of the guitar and ensure that the body is completely smooth. What that should do, according to all the videos that I've seen, is give me the best opportunity at having a smooth primer and therefore smooth top coats and smooth lacquer, which should help reduce any variation and any grain that becomes visible through in the paint. Next up is the primer. So the primer is a white primer, also from nitorlack, and the two options I had in this was a clear and a white, and because I didn't want the grain coming through at all, I figured the white would be better and then paint solid colors on top. Next up is nitorlack's deep black spray. This is a glossy spray. It isn't too glossy, but it's the only one they've got. They've got another one which is a high gloss, and I'm hoping that the lacquer, which is the nitorlack matte lacquer spray, will bring down that gloss and produce more of a matte finish. But worst case scenario, if this doesn't go well, I will end up sanding this down and doing one of two things: either finding a professional spray painter or a luthier who can do this for me and having them spray it, and if I'm unable to do that, I will resort to sanding it down and using a black stain, in which case I'll still end up with a black guitar with gold hardware, but it just won't be solid black and you'll see the wood grain through, which won't be the worst outcome, but definitely not exactly what I want. So let's hope that there aren't too many mistakes. Cool, so that's it for today. Over the next week or two I'll get into the sanding. I've been quite anxious to get going. The body of the guitar was at the luthier for quite a long time. He was quite busy and so I didn't get around to it for a while, and I've been sitting on this hardware for 2 or 3 months now, just waiting for the body to be ready for me to start working, and waiting for a few other bits and pieces that I wanted, like a decent mask to shield me from the dust and the paint, as well as a couple of other things that were going to help me do the best job that I can. So over the next couple of days we'll start with the sanding. I'll definitely be recording that and sharing that with whoever watches, and hoping that it all goes well, and we'll see you on the other side. That's it for today.